All right.
Hi,
Hello,
Jeff.
everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Obviously, we all know what's going on in Southern California right now. Very,
Yep.
very emotional, very devastating for many, many people. Jeff wanted to jump on and do a quick live to connect with everyone, to connect through see what the astrology is showing with all this. So take it away,
Yeah.
Jeff.
You bet. Thanks. Yeah, I gotta say, we've been offline a little while. It's been really intense here, and I've had a family member who's passing away. So my dad is really not doing too well. So I've been kind of tied up with a lot of different things here as well. So yeah, I mean, what can we say after what's happened? I mean, it's absolutely been devastating what's happened to everybody. And of course, a lot of people are out there very angry at the government, the mayor, the governor, and so on and so forth. And of course, everybody's heard all the news and what's been going on and, all the different rhetoric back and forth. But I got to say, this is really dangerous. And I'm actually a little bit concerned about what's coming up here over the next few days. We have, and I've been mentioning this, we have Mars retrograde right now. And in the tropical zodiac, it's debilitated and it's going retrograde to an opposition of the sun on Wednesday, which is the 15th, right at about 6:45. Well, I'd say from 6:30, in fact, anywhere in the afternoon of Wednesday, all the way up into the early evening is when this crescendos. And of course, the weather reports here in California are horrible. I mean, we're now back into 60 to 80 mile an hour wind gusts and sustained winds coming up here as we move over the next couple of days. And of course, today's Monday. So it's been intense. And we're really lucky. We haven't had anything right in our neighborhood, but a lot of people haven't been lucky, man. I'll tell you what, a friend of mine used to live in Altadena, and I know right where that neighborhood was. I used to stay there, and it's burned to the ground. Burned to the ground. These poor people have nothing left. And, we've all heard the stories. I actually have a good friend of mine who's a manager at DWP, and I don't want to mention any names of who he is and all that. But I heard conflicting stories about the water, and of course, we've heard Trump and everybody mentioning that, basically Newsom has routed billions of gallons of water out into the Pacific Ocean. Now, the news media seems to be covering a little bit for this and saying, oh, no, 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 we got plenty of water. But according to my friend at DWP, the reservoir in Palisades was empty, and there was $100 million cut in funds right before. So again, I'm not here getting political and all that stuff, but I can tell you there's some very questionable things. And I think some of this was caused by arson too. I really do. And there's been reports of some very strange incidences around flashes and smart meters and all this stuff. And I don't want to get into it because it's all over social media. It's all over the internet. And I did cast a chart. I was asked, hey, has there been some underhanded things going on? And I would definitely say yes. Now, some of it may have been legitimately started, but I also think, and they've been catching arsonists. They caught a guy with a blowtorch, and then for some reason they let him go. And so we've had a lot of crazy stuff going on here. And I know, Ella, you were really worried, and rightly so. And what was interesting is I cast a chart, and Ella calls me. She said, "I'm leaving. I'm leaving." I said, well, "Let me cast a chart," and I cast an interrogation, and it said you'd be okay. And you know what? You were. And that was a few nights ago. Yeah. I actually was on my motorcycle. My whole windshield was streaked with little gray like smokelets all over the bike. And that was from the ash landing. And I was actually getting ashes in my eye, and I had glasses on. And I felt like I was in the Rat Patrol. I had my mask, and I had some goggles ready to put on it. I didn't put on the goggles, but I was getting a little bit of ash in my eye. And what's interesting is the chart, for us at least, has been right. I wish it would have been right for so many of these other poor people. But I did cast charts in the interrogation. Is our house going to catch on fire? Is Ella's house going to catch on fire, or anybody else that I could help in the immediate vicinity? And it said no, and we didn't. Thank God we didn't, because, man, I mean, Ella, you were right. I mean, it was really close. I mean, Brentwood, by Brentwood, it was really, really intense. And you remember you calling me, right?
Oh, of course I remember.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
It was really intense, really scary. I mean, I woke up in the morning, I could see the flames just looking out the window.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Yeah, you can see 'em.
and again, it's like you did ask the astrology, and it did show that I'd be safe and that you'd be safe. And also it shows like which way the fires are going to towards. And coming up this week, it's gonna be a big problem.
That's what I checked on, and I again, I wish I could, blow the wind out of here, because we are going to get hit really heavy. And I think this Mars retrograde opposition to the sun is going to bring a lot of trouble. And again, we are at a full moon tonight. In fact, it just happened this afternoon, almost as we're speaking. The moon is going full right now as we speak. So it's intense. It's very emotional. And that's why people feel the emotions right now. In fact, I forget when the full moon is here. I can actually look up on this computer here, and it'll tell me in 2 seconds when the moon is full. Yeah, the moon is going to be full today, literally in about 15 minutes. So we're at a crescendo point here. And again, the news has been saying, the weather people have been saying, we already have the winds coming out of the north by east, which means it's blowing towards the south and west. And we are going to see some pretty serious flare-ups of flames and fires north of here. Thousand Oaks is in danger. Definitely Malibu in the west. Portions of Palisades is really likely to go, because this goes where the wind goes. My heart goes out to these firemen. I mean, when you get this kind of wind, you can't even fly in it with these gusts. It's very dangerous because those planes are heavily loaded, especially the helicopters and the planes. They're hauling huge payloads before they dump. So, there's regulations. They can only fly in certain types of weather. And they did a hell of a job here holding back that fire. I was really nervous the other day. The other night, I went down on San Vicente, which is right where George Carlin's office and his house was, right off of San Vicente. And I was really worried that the flames were going to come over that hill. And of course, there was reports it was in Mandeville Canyon, and so on and so forth. So it's a dicey time. It really is. And hopefully nobody else dies. And, I've been hearing so many reports of people passing away here. I'm going to share my screen. This is a lady you might all recognize here. If I can get my screen to share here. Hold on a minute. And it's pretty wild. She was in the Blues Brothers. She was found dead in her house. This is her right here. I'm just putting her up on, not her. This lady right here. She was what's her name? I think it's Delise Curry or Delise Curry. I don't know if you remember. She was in the Blues Brothers. She was also in the 10 Commandments. She just was found dead in her house. And so, we're definitely in a dicey time here. And I think they're going to find a lot more people coming up here. I think we're going to find the death toll is going to go way, way higher. And, no matter what Newsom says, he can defend and deflect all he wants, and he's certainly got the media behind him from what I see. But I think there was some real shortcomings here. In fact, what I'd like to say is a lot harsher, but I'm going to play something that actually says it pretty damn good. This is Victor David Hansen. Listen what he's got to say about this.
I would characterize it as a DEI, Green New Deal, hydrogen bomb. It's something out of Dantes Inferno. When you look at the people in charge, Gavin Newsom flew in to sort of do these performance art stunts.
And it's really true. I mean, he kind of did. I have to say, he's certainly attentive and around, but you can't take away from the fact that, the water has been just parched and there's been no forest control, so on and so forth. Firefighters have been doing everything they can, and they can only deal with the resources that they have. I heard a report, and I've heard this from several people, that they've been pulling in fire trucks from surrounding states, except California state has been stopping the fire trucks from coming in and helping because they haven't passed emission certificates. I'm like, wait a minute. Have you ever seen the smoke coming out of these fires? I mean, it's insanity. I mean, you could line up all the diesel trucks in this country and you wouldn't create as much smoke and smog as what's coming out of those fires. I mean, get the damn fire trucks in here and get the fire out and save people. It's crazy. I mean, this whole insanity is just gone. I really think this is going to tip the scales for Newsom. I was actually looking at Gavin Newsom's chart, his astrology chart. And Newsom right now has Pluto by tertiary progression coming right over Los Angeles as we speak. And it's going to continue. It's actually not here yet. It's probably within about, I don't know, 40, 50 miles of coming right over. It's a progression. And this is only specific to Gavin Newsom. So that's a Pluto ascending. And I don't care what they say about Pluto. Pluto will rock your world. So I think this is really going to be devastating to his political career, no matter how much he whitewashes, backpedals, and trots out somebody else in front of there to cover his back. This really rests on the governor. And the other thing that was crazy is Joe Biden was in here, and what's he doing? He's meeting with Newsom, but the firefighters couldn't fly their planes and helicopters because the president was here. And there's a no-fly zone when any president is in a given area, just for protection of the president. And, talk about insanity. I mean, can we say insanity? And, this has got to get back to common sense. And these are people's lives, they're property. It's insanity. Oh, and so I got news for you that I've been around fires like this. I watch them. They're like blowtorches. I mean, literally, you got sparks flying everywhere.
Yeah, no, it's horrible. And you were talking before about that woman who died at 95 in her house because of fire. So many elderly people live alone.
There's going to be a lot more dead. James Wood was talking about his neighbor up there in, I think he's up in Calabasas area or Thousand Oaks. And he said, is there anybody? Oh, no, everything's fine. Don't worry about a thing. He says, no. He says, this old guy, I know he's in there and he meditates or does whatever he does in the back room. And he went in there, or if it wasn't him, it was somebody else. He told it on the news. And there he was. And had James Wood not pursued that and they got that guy out, where would he be?
Right.
So,
right. Oh, no. So many people are like that. And it's horrific, like you said. And, it's interesting in the comments here. James Morgan is saying, this is what you get when you vote for idiots. I mean,
I don't care if you got a D or an R behind your name. I don't care. I don't care who you are. Common sense is what's got to rule here. Yeah. And, this DEI crap that's going on. I mean, when you don't let fire trucks in because of emissions, I mean, come on, the government, Newsom has total power here. And the other criticism I have of Newsom is, and this is really crazy. If I saw Palisades on fire, the way it was on fire when it first happened, he should have called in a National Guard within 15 minutes. He should have been on the phone saying, hey, we got, a knockdown emergency here. And, they're going to find a lot more people dead. In fact, I know a couple of really good friends and clients of mine, their grandmother lives in Palisades. And apparently she got out. I got to double check. But, you're going to hear a lot more. Same thing with up in Altadena. And yet we're not out of the woods. Between now and Wednesday, I'd say really Thursday of this week is when it's going to, we're going to see where everything shakes out. And I just hope we don't see much more. Again, it's very questionable that my friend at DWP said, Jeff, we know how the water's routed. He said, those fire hydrants are on separate lines from the house lines. You see, the treatment is separate. The fire hoses, they don't care. They just want water. So he said the story that, they had plenty of water. He said, the systems would get depleted. He said he agreed with that. But he said if those reservoirs were I mean, if people remember, things flow downhill. You got gravity. And granted, there's pumps and all that stuff. But I can tell you, something is not right here. It's either total incompetence or, not to sound conspiratorial, this might have been Maui 2.0. So definitely some crazy stuff here.
Yeah, I think it's both, for sure.
It might be both. Yeah, I think it's both. Yeah, no question about it. And, I mean, people don't realize I shouldn't say the city, but the county of Los Angeles, I couldn't believe this. I looked this up on the internet. It is literally 4,084 square miles. I mean, you know how big that is? That's 4 times the size. Just this county is 4 times the size of Rhode Island. And I found that really wow, that is huge. So, when you talk about, canceling $100 million in fire aid, and equipment. And plus they shipped the equipment off to Ukraine, the surplus equipment. It's like, what are you people thinking? They knew that, the weather service is really on it. They said, hey, look, you got hurricane force winds coming in, gusts are going to be crazy. And, I've heard a lot of reports that I don't want to get into. They're all over the internet of some very questionable things about how this many fires could have been started in so many places. And again, this is Mars retrograde opposing the sun. And we're coming to the crescendo here. So, I cast another chart this morning and it looks like we're going to be okay, but it looks like a lot of people aren't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what were you going to say?
Weren't you talking about Los Angeles having its Pluto return right now?
Yes. Thanks for reminding me of that. Yes. In fact, let me look at my notes here. What's interesting is California has a moon, primary directed moon. The primary direction is a fancy term for each year all the planets move 1 degree. Well, interesting. California was formed in 1850. In September of 1850. And the cool thing about the United States is it's not that old of a country. So we have really pretty accurate documentation of the birth charts of cities, states, and so on and so forth. And the state of California was formed in 1850, actually in September 9th. And it has a moon conjuncting Pluto. People might say, well, what does that mean? Well, fingernails on the chalkboard, very abrasive, intense, angry situation. And I think the populace is going to go berserk here. And they should. They should. This is insanity. We have the technology, we have the capabilities to keep this place safe. And I'm not saying fires aren't going to happen, but I think this one was far more severe than it needed to be. And I don't care what Newsom does to deflect and all that he does, it's not going to matter. I mean, the responsibility lies with them. And secondly, I have to say the state, that was the state, the city of Los Angeles, this is really peculiar. The city of Los Angeles was actually founded 5 years after the country was founded. It was in 1781, if my date is correct. Yeah, it was also in September 4th of 1781 at 9:11 a.m. is the data I have. That's the birth chart for the city of Los Angeles, which came way before the state of California. And in fact, it was even before it was brought into a state. It was just a territory. I think it might have been a territory of Mexico at one time. So the bottom line is, if we take that birth chart, that has a Pluto return coming in on it, the city of Los Angeles. And I know Jason at Archaics was talking about this movie 2020 that was set in 2025 where the city of Los Angeles burned and all that. And there's all kinds of apocalyptic things that have been mentioned about Los Angeles around this time. And I did get a report, LA is going to crack off in the next 50 hours and, have a huge earthquake. I hope I'm right, but the chart says no. It's not likely to happen. I think these fires are what's really on our plate right now. God forbid if we had an earthquake. Huh? Yeah. Oh my God, that's all we need. But the chart leans towards no. Yeah. But what I do get is we're going to see hell's fire and brimstone with more trouble. And how could you not with these fires still burning? They're not fully contained. And, as the wind kicks up, it's gonna start fanning the flames, so to speak, literally. So, but yeah, we have a Pluto return on the city of Los Angeles over the next couple of years. See, and this is what's interesting. When you get something that's a couple of 100 years old, like a city or a state or a country. See, our country just turned 248 years old. We just completed in the United States the Pluto return that just ended right in December. And God, can he leave quick enough? I'm talking about Biden. So, oh my God, what a nightmare that guy's been. Anyways, long story short, the Pluto return in the United States is over. But Los Angeles, because it's only 5 years older, has the tropical returns come in sooner than the sidereal. And, to you tropical astrologers, I have to say, I find tropical astrology really accurate. And to the siderealists, I say the same thing. They both show up in their respective ways. And I got to tell you, Los Angeles itself, over the next 3-4 years, is going to have a Pluto return. It's either going to be destroyed or it's going to be the phoenix rising out of the ashes.
Here
And
we go
again, let's hope it's the latter. Yeah. So this is really, really powerful stuff. And I got to say, it's kind of coming to light as we speak. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I had forgotten that. And that's why I love, you bring things up. So
yeah. Well, a lot of people are saying in the comments that they believe all this is planned. And you and I, of course, spoken about this and feel the same way. And that they're trying to cull the population. They want to rebuild. A friend of mine just called me this morning and said, look, I think that they want to literally burn it down and rebuild it, just rebuild it.
Again, Los Angeles is gargantuan. There's a lot more left. And let's hope it doesn't get damaged. But, I mean, those poor people, they've just been decimated. I mean, I'll play you a video. This is really cool. Well, it's actually not cool. It's kind of sad. But this is a video that I found from a guy. It was on the internet. Many of you may have seen it. But what he did is he went down the PCH, and he's going backwards from the Malibu sector. And that's just a little bit north of where Malibu Pier would be, just as a reference. So he's going along here, and I'm just kind of scrubbing through so you can see it. And here, I'll put it full screen. It doesn't get too full screen, but what's happening here is, look at this. I mean, look at the power lines down. I mean, literally the poles burned and blew right over. These are just shells of buildings. Certain ones would stand, certain ones wouldn't. And many of you may have heard of the restaurant called Moon Shadows, and that was right up somewhere in this area. Look at all the transformers down. I mean, it just literally looks like a nuclear bomb went off, and it just wiped out everything. Look at that telephone pole and that transformer laying down there. And of course, this is right by where Carbon Canyon is, I think. And then as you keep heading this is heading towards Santa Monica. For anyone who's familiar with this, a lot of people have been down this road. I mean, look at that. House is on fire, and this was like the day after. Amazing. And of course, this is the chart house. If anybody's familiar with that, this is actually Topanga Canyon. Here, I'll just play it. This is Topanga Canyon he's going by right now. So, and then he's going to stop at the chart house, which is just a little, look at the smoke in the background, which is just a little bit north of Castle Rock Beach. So, this is a really well-known area, and it's such a shame that, all those old buildings, they're history. I mean, they're gone, man. They're never coming back. And I mean, God, I've been riding up and down that road for almost 48 years now, 47 years. Yeah, it's a long time. And that's got a lot of history. And
really does. Big shift happening right now. I mean, I know we said 2025 was going to be, a year, but
well, again, and then let's talk about the rest of the world. I mean, the poor people in North Carolina are still sleeping in tents. And again, Biden's not doing anything. I mean, these poor people are, I just saw the other day a news clip, and we actually talked to somebody out there where they can't even get gas to keep warm, and the FEMA trailers aren't even showing up. So, not only do we have this debacle going on here in California, which is a nightmare for these poor people, you got the same thing going on over there. And then let's not mention about, the wars still going on that we hear nothing about. So yeah, this is a very dynamic time, and life is always like this. It always has its ups and downs. But this is dramatic, there's no question. And it's Mars opposition the sun. See, Mars only goes retrograde every couple of years. And what's interesting is it elongates out from the sun and then retrogrades and then goes to an opposition. See, Mars is the first of the outer planets, so it's a lot different than Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde conjuncts the sun. Mars won't conjunct the sun during its retrograde period. It goes to what we call maximum of occidental, and then it goes to an opposition to the sun, and then it goes oriental. So right after Wednesday, Mars will finish its final phase of retrogradation, which will then complete right around February 23rd. So this is intense. It really is. And I just hope these winds stop and these firefighters get the chance to put this stuff out, because, man, these guys have been working 3 shifts. And I mean, it's amazing the flying these guys. I've been watching them. I mean, they come in with these Hercules C-130s, these huge military planes, and I mean, it just fills the horizon where they drop with this flame retardant. And I think they've really saved a lot of lives doing that. And the helicopters, they have been either dipping into the ocean because the reservoirs in Palisades was pretty dry. And though the one up in Encino was not. And if anybody's familiar with the movie It's a Wonderful Life, the Encino Reservoir is where George Bailey jumped off the bridge and went in. And that was right there many years ago. What a great movie. But that's where they were pulling the water from. And I tell you, those guys have been non-stop with planes and helicopters in and out. And thank God they have been, because I'll tell you what, this place would really burn if they hadn't. And it still has burned. I think they've only got the Palisades fire. I don't know, maybe you've heard, Ella, but it's like
20% contained.
20%, 30, yeah. And let those winds get going. Forget it. I mean, those winds get going.
I know. And Al Cadena is just a complete disaster.
You bet.
Complete disaster.
Yeah. It looks like a bomb went off. Yeah.
I mean, the weather's showing these heavy winds coming in, but we still got to pray, you know.
Well, see, that's the full moon combined with the main exciter here is Mars retrograde going to that opposition of the sun. Really intense. This is about the last thing we needed to do is cut the fire budget and not have adequate water. Now, I heard the whitewashing this morning with
fires every single year.
What's that?
Yeah, she cut the fire budget out here in California when there are multiple fires every single year. Like, this isn't something out of the blue, right? It's just that the winds were so intense, but we get fires out here every single year, and she cuts the fire. But it's all planned.
Yeah, she cuts the fire budget. I know.
All of it.
And then it's the deflect and don't blame me. You know, and I mean, Newsom was even pointing fingers at the locals. I'm like, what? You know, you're the governor. You know, why didn't he bring in the National Guard instantly? And it's people getting looted. It's insane. Absolutely insane.
No, it's
insane.
I
mean, they should have every resource possible. And then to stop the fire trucks. And then, the other thing we didn't mention is Newsom opened up the southern borders, letting all the illegals pile in here. You think they're going to help fight fires? Not a chance. I mean, you have professionals who've been trained, who know exactly how to deal with this stuff, being held up either in Sacramento or at the border, showing certificates. They got to prove that their fire truck is not going to emit any smoke during a fire. I mean, can we get more insane? Can we get more insane? I mean, wow.
Probably.
I actually think we could get more insane here in the land of the fruits and nuts.
I know we can. I know we can. We just have to, get through these next few days. The winds are supposed to kick up tonight through Tuesday, Wednesday, like you said. Wednesday through night through Thursday morning supposed to be, maybe a game changer. Let's.
And then we got the inauguration coming up, and we'll see what's invented for that. I heard there's terrorist cells all over this country. Wow. And when you got Christopher Wray resigning, well, geez, I'm going to go. I'm worried about terrorist cells. Well, you're the head of the FBI. Maybe you should be worried about it. It's kind of your job, So, I mean, it's like, again, we need competency. It doesn't matter if you got an R or a D in front of your name. It's called common sense and competency. I mean, these are, this is our country, and it's really been a Pluto return. It really has. I mean, when we step back and I think really look at this a few years from now, we're going to say, wow, whether you believe in astrology or not, it certainly was a really dire and trying time. It wasn't like the Civil War where the country was completely at war, but in a different way, the country's been attacked, and I think it was Thomas Jefferson he said the worst type of attack is the one inside, the treasonous attacks from within, because they're surrounded like a king on a chessboard. You can't get to them. because they're protected by the very structures that, they're destroying. And, again, the news has been full of this stuff as what's been going on. I mean, Biden metaphorically is doing the same thing in Washington. He's lighting the place on fire as he heads out the door. He's giving away deep, water harbors. He's doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, pardoning every criminal he can. And, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy.
We've got this new administration coming in. And, I'm so surprised we haven't heard a peep out of Kennedy through all of this.
Yeah, well, no, I'm glad you brought that up. I just had a client, wonderful lady, who was a doctor, had a conversation today. And I'll just say this, the amount of pressure to keep Kennedy out of the administration in any way, shape, or form is formidable. You are dealing with a multi-billion-dollar force of not only the AMA, but the pharmaceutical industries. They don't want, and the fertilizer industries, everything else. I don't think they want Kennedy. In fact, if I'd be Kennedy, I'd be checking my brake lines, and I think I'd hire extra security right now because, what they'll do is they'll just keep them from getting in. And I think the lobbying that we're going to see, and I think this is going to be a real fiasco. Yeah, Trump will get signed in, or sworn in, but I think we're going to see some real resistance against some of his cabinet picks. It's going to be crazy. So we're in for a boat ride. And again, look at the rest of the world with this Uranus going over these fixed stars that we've talked about so much. Mm-hmm. And we'll be talking about a lot more as we move forward here. But so sorry we weren't online here for the last week. You've had some issues you had to deal with, and so did I, and it's just been I've been so busy. So and
thank you so much to everyone who reached out. So many
reached out
to Jeff and to myself and to check in, and thank you so much. And
a lot of people were very kind to reach out and make sure we were all okay, and we appreciate that.
Yeah. So we're going to keep praying for everyone, no matter what the situation here, Ukraine, everywhere. Everywhere. We all need to pray for everybody everywhere because we're living in an insane asylum.
Yeah, I'm going to play one more thing here that Victor David Hansen said that I really like. Just listen to what he said here. I just saw it here and I forgot to play it. I'm going to put this on screen here. He's a pretty sharp guy here. And listen to what he says about what's happened in California.
What I mean by that is it's a systems breakdown, a civilizational collapse. When you look at the people in charge, Gavin Newsom flew in to sort of do these performance art stunts, but he has systematically ensured that water out of the Sacramento River and the watershed of Northern California would go out to the sea rather than into the aqueduct. So Los Angeles didn't have sufficient amounts of water.
It's locking up. So it does that sometimes. Well, anyways, I'll just come back online here. Anyways, he talks about how literally thousands upon thousands upon thousands of homes were denied electrical power, hydroelectric power. So he goes on and on about it, but it's really well said. In fact, you might want to check it out. Victor David Hansen just put out a podcast. He puts them out all the time. But I thought what he said was done in a really intelligent way. He wasn't just sitting there and bashing Newsom. He was putting some real facts on the table.
Right.
And I think this is going to really affect Newsom's career. And, I was looking, Gavin Newsom's chart, he has a Pluto return coming right up. In fact, as we speak here, let me take a look at that. I can just look real fast down here. Yeah, Newsom, as we speak, is exactly 57 years old, 3 months and 4 days. I'm not that smart. The computer figures it out. And so he's right on. Whenever you turn 58 to 59, you're going to get a Pluto return. And he's got Pluto literally starting this March, the transit of his water trine, which is where his Saturn is. It's in the water trines. So, it's clearly going to be a time of reckoning for him. Yeah. And I think no matter how much they keep spinning everything, a lot of people are going to be really angry, and rightly so. I mean, this is huge what's happened.
We already are. We're all angry. We're already angry. And then he has his Saturn return right after that, right?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, he'll have his Saturn return coming right up here. And, that'll happen in about 1.5 to 2 years from now. He'll have his Saturn return. Yeah. So that's right around the corner. No doubt about it. So
Yes, it is.
yeah.
Yes,
So
it is.
yeah, I would tend to say California with the Pluto return on Los Angeles, and most importantly, the primary directed moon on Pluto of the state of California. That one right there. See, the moon is the general significator of the populace, the people. And I think they're not going to be able to just manipulate and deflect and, do what they've been doing. I think there's going to be some real accountability handled here. A lot of people are angry. I've heard so many people say, recall them, get rid of them.
You bet.
I mean, these people are like kings on a chessboard. They got so much surrounding them.
Yeah.
When you look at all the councils and the, legal and structural systems that surround the governor, you just can't just pull them out. They can pretty much get away with a lot without being directly held accountable,
Yeah.
So we'll see what the federal government does once this new administration is in, because I can tell you, Trump and Harman are not going to play around with all this stuff here going on with the illegal criminals coming in here and the insanity, because, if you have federal laws, even the great gruesome is not going to be able to defy that. And I love what Harman said. He said, I'll be happy to put him in jail if he defies the law. Love to see that one, wouldn't you? Yeah.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, I think we're complete. We could go on and on here, but, I just want to give an update, and we'll definitely be out next week with a podcast.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. Thanks for your well wishes. Let's all keep praying for one another, and take good care of yourselves. See you soon.
You bet. Thanks so much. Okay, bye.